Okay, so what we have here, guys, is a poll that was recently released about whether or not President Donald Trump should or should not pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. If he wants to earn the favor with Americans furious over the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files, nearly 2/3 of Americans do not want the convicted child trafficker pardoned, according to a Times from YouGov. Now, for me, it's a little crazy to hear only 2/3. It's a little crazy to hear only 2/3. So I want you guys to look at this. So what we got here is we have U.S. adults on the top, and we've got 32% that are not sure, 64% total. And what we got here in the Democrats are 20% not sure. These are the 20% that need to be fucking taken to task, that these people think that they're not sure whether or not Ghislaine Maxwell should get a pardon. That's insane. But luckily, 75%. By the way, there is 5% of Democrats that think that Ghislaine Maxwell should get a pardon, and that 5% of Democrats, they should have their computers checked. Okay? They should have their computers checked. Then over here, we've got independents at 37%, and we've got 60% saying that she shouldn't receive it. So once again, independents, 37% not sure. That's fucking insane. But then we drop down here to the Republicans, 58% of Republicans, still on the side of 50% at least. But almost half of Republicans would be okay with, or they're not real sure whether or not she should get a pardon or not. That's fucking insane. That is insane. So then we come over here and we got what the Trump administration has said about Jeffrey Epstein is either completely true, mostly true, not sure, mostly false, or completely false. So in total, most people overall, only 6% believe that everything that Trump is saying is completely true. Once again, those people should have their files checked. Those people should have their computers seized. That's just how I feel about it. That's where I'm going with that. 13% of these people think it's mostly true. 40% not sure. Not sure. 15% believe that it's mostly false, and 26% believe it is completely false. Thank God for that 26%. But once again, guys, I want to show you the clear difference between these two parties and what they support. When we drop down into the Democrats, we got a very small percentage of completely true or mostly true. Once again, I don't know how the fuck those people are Democrats, but okay. 28% that are not sure. Once again, those people can go fuck themselves. Then we've got 18% that say mostly false. And thankfully, at least half of all Democrats polled believe that everything that Donald Trump says is absolute fucking garbage and he's full of shit. But when we drop down in the Republicans, we got 10% of Republicans polled that said everything that Donald Trump has said about Jeffrey Epstein is completely true. And I want you to think about that. Donald Trump has contradicted his damn self. He has said it was a hoax that was created by Obama and Clinton and Biden. He legit ran on releasing these files, but then called them a hoax. He then also went and said, you know what? The files are a hoax, but Bill Clinton's in them. How 10% of Republicans say everything he said is true. 26% of them said mostly true. 46%, they're not sure if anybody should be paying attention to a fucking president that's lying about files that are protecting people that human trafficked. It should be Republicans. You voted for this motherfucker. And 46% of you are like, I don't know. 12% mostly false. And 5% of all Republicans, 5% believe that Donald Trump is full of shit. I mean, that's actually higher than I thought it was going to be honest with you guys. So, next we got, because we're going to talk a little bit about what Donald Trump has said and what they've shown us so far and all that bullshit. So what we got here, as you guys all know, is the footage recently looked at that we all know was edited, that we all know was missing a minute of footage, to which Pam Bondi said, no, there's a minute of footage that is missing from all of these nights, guys. That's the way it is. Of course, now we're realizing, because people have came out and said, no, that isn't true, that Pam Bondi lied once again. Pam Bondi has said, the client list is on my desk. Pam Bondi has said, a minute of footage is missing from all these videos. And she's full of shit. She's a liar. You don't lie about things that you are not trying to cover up. And it also turns out that the video footage happens to not be the only video footage, that the Department of Justice has another video from another camera, but that they are not releasing. So I want you guys take a look at this video talking about this. Oh, we've got to unmute it.
Released the primary video used in the investigation of the death of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, described that video on Fox and Friends just weeks before its release.
There's video that when you look at the video, and we will release, that's what's taken a while on this, we are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the...
Let me help you guys out with something here. If somebody says we're working on the video so that way we can clean it up so that way y'all can get the enhanced version. Let me break that down into plain English for you. They're editing out any footage that they don't want in that bitch. That's what they're doing. And that's what they did. He said it right to your face.
Original, so you don't think there were any shenanigans.
We thought there were shenanigans.
There's video.
We know there were
day.
shenanigans.
He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
We showed this video to multiple video forensics experts who agreed what the FBI and others have said is simply not true. That video and other evidence led to the conclusion by the government that Epstein's death on August 10th, 2019 was suicide. An analysis in consultation with video forensic experts suggests multiple inconsistencies between statements from government officials, including Bongino, a report from the Department of Justice's Office of the Inspector General into Epstein's death released in 2023, and the tape itself. These inconsistencies, while not contradicting the conclusion Epstein died by suicide, do introduce questions that the government so far...
Yeah, we've got some questions. We got a lot of fucking questions.
...has declined to answer. We'll show you those in a moment. First, let's break this all down. Epstein was held at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Lower Manhattan, in a unit separate from the general population known as the Special Housing Unit.
By the way, when he was held here, this was considered one of the best places, one of the most high-tech places. And it turns out just, a few months later, they're like, it turns out actually it's a garbage facility, let's get rid of it.
Or SHU. The unit has 3 wings, each with 2 levels. Epstein was held in the upstairs L tier of his wing. That tier is accessed by a set of stairs from the central common area. Directly adjacent to those stairs is the officers' station, where on-duty corrections officers spend most of their time. The Inspector General report says several cameras in the unit were streaming a live feed to a remote location in the prison, but no one was watching them. Malfunctioning equipment meant only one camera recorded the general area. That camera captured part of the common area, including the officer's station.
And I want everybody to remember this. This is 2019. Who was the president?
And a sliver of the staircase leading to Epstein's cell. The footage begins at 7:40 p.m. the night before Epstein's death. You can see staff and inmates moving about, preparing for the nightly lockdown. That's the officer's station in the background. Only 2 employees have been publicly identified. Tova Noel, a corrections officer pulling a double shift that began at 4 p.m., and Michael Thomas, a materials handler who won't arrive until midnight. Epstein is seen for the first and only time on camera at 7:49 p.m. when the department...
By the way, those 2 people that were guards, they allegedly falsified information saying that they had checked Epstein's cell. They were later put on trial, and those charges were dropped after a plea deal. That sounds a little fucking sus.
Department of Justice said he was escorted to his cell from another wing of the unit. It's important to note here, you don't actually see Epstein ascend the stairwell to his cell block. Remember what Dan Bongino said.
There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
Let's zoom in and play that again in slow motion. Here's the sliver of stairs. Epstein is here with his escort, and they walk off screen. When the FBI released the video, they said anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the common area would have been captured by this footage. But with the primary entrance here, the pathway from the entrance to the stairs is completely out of view of the camera. For the next hour or so, corrections officers and inmates are seen moving about, preparing for all prisoners to be locked down. At 8:21, another inmate is seen being escorted toward the stairs leading to Epstein's cell area. No movement is detected on the stairs again. By 8:24, all of the inmates appear to have been taken to their cells. Noel told the Inspector General she visited Epstein's cell at about 10 p.m. You can see her head in that direction here, albeit closer to 10:30, but not climb the stairs. The rules require rounds to be made every 30 minutes, but according to the report, this was the only time anyone checked on the inmates that night. There was even a sign printed on orange paper posted on the guard station saying mandatory rounds must be conducted every 30 minutes on Epstein, as per God. This was because of concerns about his risk for suicide. At 10:38 p.m., the report says someone, probably Noel, carries a bundle of bedding or clothing up the stairs. It's a rare instance the video does catch movement on the stairs, but barely. Let's see that zoomed in and in slow motion again. Several of the video forensic experts we spoke with were skeptical about the report's conclusion and thought that the video could be showing an inmate walking up.
Exactly. That's orange. They asked, I believe, a New York PD guy, a forensic expert, whether or not that was a person carrying towels and stuff up the stairs. And he's like, in my opinion, no, that's an inmate. That's an inmate going up there. And let me tell you how some of these things work. Inmates do favors for powerful people, because inmates are the type of people that have the least to lose and the most to gain in these situations. My opinion is that is an inmate that is heading up the stairs to do whichever person is in those files, do the bidding of that person. That's orange. That's not an officer.
The stairs. Authorities say this was the last time anyone approached his cell block until his body was discovered the next morning. Again, while the video does not contradict that, experts who viewed the video say the limited field of view makes it impossible to definitively conclude that no one used those stairs
That's orange as fuck,
in that
dude.
time period. Beyond this, there are other issues our investigation and others have uncovered. At 11:21 p.m. and 34 seconds, a cursor appears briefly on screen, indicating the video may have been recorded with a camera or a screen recording. And
let me tell you something, guys. I produce videos on YouTube. I edit videos on YouTube. And every once in a while, I look and I go, ah, shit, my cursor's on the screen. I said when this came out, I was like, dude, YouTube content creators are going to be like, I think this is our chance. This is our time. We're going to be like this is Adobe Premiere. Like, we know so much about this shit. Like, there's no reason that cursor should be on a camera. There's zero reason that there should be a cursor on that camera.
was not an export of the raw file. The FBI said it had seized the prison's hard drive 5 days after his death and had released the full raw footage this month. Two experts told CBS News the video's metadata, which tracks how a file is created and changed, shows it's made from 2 clips stitched together in editing software. Those experts also say the video was edited and saved multiple times. Next up, the now famous missing minute. At 11:57 and 35 seconds, an individual appears on screen from the direction of the main door. It's likely this is Michael Thomas arriving for his midnight shift and replacing the other staff member on duty who'd been working from 4 to midnight. Noel was starting a second shift of 8 hours. From that point on, only Noel and Thomas were on duty during the critical window when Epstein is believed to have died. At 11:58 and 58 seconds, the video jumps to midnight.
And
the
changes aspect
ratio
Yep.
of the video changes slightly. Another indication it may have been edited. Zooming in and playing back in slow motion, you can see a slight shift in the shape of the figure standing or sitting around the officer's
Cameras
desk,
don't do that.
But otherwise, nothing changes. Attorney General Pam Bondi attributed the missing minute to a nightly reset of the security camera system.
There was a minute that was off the counter, and what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night.
And that turned out to be a goddamn lie. Because now we have that minute.
That additional video has not been released, and a government source has alleged to CBS News the FBI and other agencies are in possession of the full, unedited footage. Why the FBI did not release that is unclear, and the agency offered no comment.
Oh, I can tell you why they didn't release that shit. If they would like to give me a call, I could go ahead and let them know exactly why they did not release that shit.
Importantly, the Inspector General gives no indication there was a minute missing when their team reviewed the video. We can surmise the male staffer working the 4 to 12 shift would have left during the missing minute based on the report, leaving just Noel and Thomas. But that is not seen on camera. Serious problems with the government's investigation and witness statements don't end there. The report says the unit was secured by 2 doors, one requiring a key held only by Noel and Thomas. Noel told investigators no one could enter without her physically opening that door. But here's where it gets tricky. Let's look at this one example. 4 a.m. Noel remains in full view of the camera, yet seconds later, someone walks in, and it appears neither Noel nor Thomas let her in. The report is silent on this apparent contradiction. And even if there was no other key, both Noel and Thomas had ample opportunities to let someone in. At least a half dozen times, one or the other of them exits the camera frame in the direction of the door, all without explanation. We shared this with our forensic experts who agreed there was no way to conclusively determine from the video whether an unseen visitor was or was not let into the Epstein unit, although both Noel and Thomas have said no one else entered. At 6:22, either Thomas or Noel walk off screen again and reappear carrying food trays, breakfast for the prisoners. At this point, based on the autopsy results, Epstein is believed to already be dead. According to Thomas's account, he arrived at Epstein's cell to deliver his breakfast and found him in a seated position, his buttocks an inch from the ground, held up by a torn sheet tied to the bunk bed in his room. At 6:30, someone rushes in from off camera, according to the report. This was Noel returning to the desk to call for help after Thomas discovered Epstein. Epstein's body was quickly removed from the cell. Only Noel and Thomas witnessed him hanging. At 6:40 a.m., the video ends.
Kinda sus.
Epstein's body is not seen being removed. Both Thomas and Noel have said they played no role in Epstein's death. They were charged with falsifying documents, but those charges were dropped as part of a plea deal. Additional clarification could come from a second camera mentioned in the report. It recorded an elevator bank in the same unit, although the report stated that it did not cover areas that would have included access to Epstein's cell. It would at least show a missing minute. We reached out to the Department of Justice to see about obtaining that footage. They referred us to the FBI, who referred us back to the Department of Justice.
You don't say.
Neither Thomas nor Noel responded to our inquiries through their legal representatives. For a case that demanded transparency, it's yet another muddled chapter, raising more questions than it answers.
So there you go. So going back to the polling results, everybody, including 50% of Republicans, want these files released. They clearly thought that they were going to just release this video and that was going to be the end of it. And Donald Trump has made a mistake here. Donald Trump makes a lot of mistakes, but his cult doesn't always hold him accountable for these mistakes. But many people now are seeing. You saw the MAGA shaman, Jacob Tinsley, is that his name? Jacob Tinsley. The MAGA shaman that was incarcerated over January 6th has now denounced Donald Trump. You've got MAGA podcast bros like Andrew Schultz and Joe Rogan that are going, what the fuck? And, you know, I think there's a part of me and a part of a lot of you guys, too, that are like, well, of course they're fucking idiots. You guys are fucking idiots. What do you mean? What do you mean that you don't, like, now you're just now figuring this out? But there is something to be said, and in no way am I making excuses, nor do I support these people, about people that probably went down rabbit holes, that probably found themselves getting very worked out about a very sensitive, very, crazy topic about elites and billionaires and people with status and connections and what they do when they become out of touch with society and need to find a way to touch that part within them that still feels something. You know, when you have serial killers, right? Many serial killers, well, probably all of them, are psychotic. And when they do things like they're doing it because they're trying to feel something. They don't feel anything. And so they're trying to reach down to like the worst parts of the human conscious, the worst part of being a human being, to feel something. And that's what billionaires do. That's why being a billionaire is immoral. It shouldn't be illegal to be a billionaire, but it definitely should be seen as being immoral. Because at one point or another, when you have so much money, you no longer have to worry about food. You no longer have to worry about housing. You don't have to worry about paying off debt. You don't have to worry about entertainment. And it's my belief that when a person gets to that point where they no longer need the necessities of life to continue to survive, they lose feeling with what it is to be a human being. And I've said in my job, I've taken care of and helped to, launch the careers of so many young people. And I can tell you that you find no greater happiness, no greater feeling of success than when you do it through other people. When you find yourself helping other people to become successful, that's when you find yourself at your happiest. And I think that all of these billionaires, all of these rich people, all of these elites that will never, ever have to worry about anything in their life again have become out of touch with reality, and they have started, or they have been, since fucking millennia, been doing things to find that part inside of themselves that still feels something. So I actually recognize that certain people that voted for Donald Trump saw things, conspiracy theory or otherwise, that led them to believe that these things weren't being done by Donald Trump, but they're being done by other people. And now they've drawn a line in the sand and said he doesn't get to back down from this. And he made a mistake. And finally, the MAGA cult might actually hold him accountable for making that mistake, which would be fucking insane. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, and check out that video on the screen now.